All right, so this week marks a shift in the 49ers offseason program, goes from phase one to phase two, and now it's phase three. So, what does that mean? It means OTAs, organized team activities, the first time that the offense and the defense can be out there at the same time, going through competitive scrimmage type of activity. Of course, no contact, no pads, anything of that nature. But it's the first time that the offense runs plays against the defense. The defense can do certain things. So this is really kind of the meat of the offseason program. So that takes place for a couple of weeks, and then there's the mandatory mini camp. And then they break, and then training camp begins. But at this point in the offseason, what I wanted to do is kind of take a look ahead, kind of see where we've been as far as the 49ers offseason program. And remember, throughout last year, kind of the cloud hovering over the 49ers the entire season was a long list of free agents that were going to be having their contracts expire at the end of the 2024 season. So now here we are in 2025, and it seems like the 49ers have cleaned up their cap situation. There aren't as many notable players whose contracts expire. In fact, there's really only two, with Jauan Jennings and Colton McKivitz, two starters or two starter caliber players. And so right now, the 49ers are 39 million under the salary cap for the current year, and that's after doing the contracts for Kittle and Warner and Brock Purdy, of course. Next year, they'll have some salary cap issues, I suppose, with Bosa counting right now a scheduled 42 million against the cap, Trent Williams 39 million, Fred Warner 26 million, and Brock Purdy at 24. So maybe they'll have to do some restructuring of those deals in order to create a little bit more cap room. But the one guy I wanted to focus in on right now is Jauan Jennings, because when you look at what the 49ers have accomplished this offseason and then what's left for them to do, I would say that Jennings and McKivitz are the two guys that they could look to extend and not give them a chance to hit the open market, because I would assume that next year, if those guys hit free agency, it'd be really difficult for the 49ers to be able to keep both of them. Over the weekend, I reached out to an agent who represents wide receivers and has a very good handle on the wide receiver market. So my question to this agent was, if you were representing Jauan Jennings, what kind of contract do you think he would get at this point heading into the final year of his contract? And the answer came back 11 million, and this was average per year, obviously, 11 to 15 million per year. And the comp was Jakobi Meyers. Now, it was in 2023, Jakobi Meyers signed a free agent contract, 3 years, 33 million with Las Vegas. That was after 4 years with the New England Patriots. And he put up good numbers in his first 4 years with the Patriots. Seemed to always be around that 700 yard to 800 yard range as far as per season. Now, he had his breakout year, I guess you could say, last year with the Raiders, 87 catches, more than 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And I'm assuming the reason the agent used that as the comp, used Jakobi Meyers as the comp for Jauan Jennings, is because Jennings last year, 77 catches, 975 yards, 6 touchdowns. So very, very comparable. Jennings is actually younger than Meyers, not by too much. Jennings is 27 now, turns 28 in July. Meyers is 28 now, and he turns 29 in November. So I know a lot of people would say 49ers need to sign Jauan Jennings to a long-term extension now to keep him from hitting the open market, because as we have seen in recent years, the wide receiver market has absolutely exploded. And so 49ers would probably be wanting to come in under that mark that I shared with you, 11 million to 15 million. I do think 11 million is on the uh, the conservative side of that, because if Myers signed a deal 2 years ago for 11 million a year. I think Jauan Jennings has a case to go well above that and pushing more toward that 15 million top end that he could get. And for the 49ers, they would certainly want to get him on a little bit of a bargain right now because they would be taking away the risk for Jennings. For Jennings, there is risk. If he wants to bet on himself, put together a really good season, and then hit the open market next year, yes, he could absolutely cash in. For the 49ers standpoint, they would want to, whatever deal that they would want to give him now would be lesser in value, but would contain, some guarantees that could make it attractive to Jauan Jennings to sign the deal now and not have to worry about the possibility of getting injured this season and that affecting his market value. So for the 49ers, have they prepared for the exit of Jauan Jennings? We shall see. Last year, they obviously drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. They also drafted Jacob Cowing. This year, they signed Demarcus Robinson as a free agent from the Rams, and they also drafted Jordan Watkins in this draft. So they already have Brandon Ayuk, but we're not sure what his status is to open the season. So in theory, if you look toward 2026, the 49ers would have a healthy Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, Watkins, and Cowing. They could obviously also, and I would think at this point, because of the free agent market and how it is blown up, I would think teams would try to take a wide receiver in the draft just about any year or every year. And next year, with the 49ers, they might look to add a day one or day two wide receiver. So I would assume the 49ers have kind of looked ahead and thought of the possibility of not having Jennings, and so tried to build more of their wide receiver depth. Of course, there's also some guys, from what I understand, Tariq Owens has looked good in the offseason program. Obviously, Terrell Owens' son. Not a whole lot of college experience, but has the traits that teams are looking for. Can they develop him into a guy who makes a contribution at some point down the road? So for Jennings, it's not as simple as it seems as far as what that number would be. I would think that he would be somebody who has yet to really cash in. Although, I say that, but last year when he was a free agent, a restricted free agent, he signed a 2-year extension worth $15.4 million. So what's that? That is basically 7.7 million per year. And so that's that's obviously a good contract, but it's less than 8 million per year. And now when you look at what he was able to accomplish last season with Brandon Ayuk missing more than half of the season, with Deebo Samuel's production week to week and his consistency going up and down, for Ricky Pearsall missing half the season as well. The 49ers turned to Jauan Jennings, and he produced. And Jauan Jennings clearly envisions himself as a number one receiver, and he should, because he looked at times last season like a number one receiver. So that would be something to keep an eye on for the rest of this offseason, is just how the 49ers approach it with Jauan Jennings, heck, how Jauan Jennings approaches it with the 49ers, and if there is a possibility to get a long-term extension done, or at least a multi-year extension done, looking probably for a 2 or 3 year contract for Jennings with a good chunk of guaranteed money. So when you look at what the 49ers have done throughout this offseason, releasing some players along the defensive line, Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, their inability or unwillingness to try to re-sign some of their free agents. Obviously Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore, I was going to say Dre Greenlaw. I'll come back to him. Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward. Those guys were all too rich for the 49ers, and they knew that they wouldn't be able to re-sign them. And then, they were intent on re-signing Dre Greenlaw. However, I think they let that thing go far too far down the road. And once the Denver Broncos came in with a big offer and 49ers offer, initial offer was under that, then Dre Greenlaw gave the verbal commitment from Denver and stuck with that one. So you had that part of the offseason where the 49ers lost a lot more guys than they brought in. Then there was the draft where they had 11 picks, they kept their 11 picks, and they stocked up the defense with their first five selections. Then, of course, the re-signing or the extensions for Kittle, Purdy, and Warner in that order. And that is kind of all the stuff at the beginning, the slashing of the salaries for the future, the trading of Deebo Samuel, the trade of Jordan Mason, all that was to create the cap space and the future flexibility on the salary cap to be able to re-sign Kittle, Purdy, Warner. And so now that the 49ers have kind of cleaned up their books, the next thing you look to are who are the free agents coming up next year. And oh, by the way, it should be mentioned that with Purdy and Kittle, those players were entering the final year of their contract. With Warner, he still had 2 years remaining on his deal. And the reason there was an emphasis or an urgency to get that deal done with Warner this offseason was because his salary cap, after a few restructures, his salary cap figure was very high. So the 49ers were able to kind of work with that a little bit in order to get that deal done with him. So that's where the 49ers are. Something to keep an eye on. Jauan Jennings, does he take maybe a deal that would be lesser in value this year in order to gain the security of getting that money, guaranteed money in the pocket? Does he bet on himself with the idea of becoming an unrestricted free agent next year and be the first time that he could, without any restrictions, be able to negotiate with other teams and really see what his true market value is? And for the 49ers, do you try to get him on a deal that is significantly lower than what he could be, but the pitch would be, if you take the deal now, you don't have to worry about injury. You'll be taken care of. So for the 49ers, that's what they're working with. That's probably why they've made some moves in addition to in addition to thinking along the lines of Deebo Samuel might not be here for the 2025 season, which he obviously isn't with the trade to the Washington Commanders. But the drafts, the last two drafts, picking up three wide receivers, in addition to, I guess, Junior Bergen, the seventh round pick, who's seen as more of a return specialist. But, Ricky Pearsall, will he be able to take that next step? From what I understand, a good offseason program for him. So 49ers will be looking for more from him. But again, just wanted to highlight, if you're looking for a comp for Jauan Jennings on the free agent market, what an agent told me was Jacoby Myers is the guy who signed a 3-year, $33 million contract with the Raiders in 2023. And now with inflation, a rising salary cap, that would seem to be just the absolute bottom for Jauan Jennings, and looking more toward maybe that $15 million a year range. Would the 49ers go there? Probably not right now, but there is enough wiggle room for the sides to get together and make that work. Whether that gets done or not, anybody's guess. But I would think that there's strong arguments on both sides to get the deal done, and maybe a stronger argument for Jauan Jennings showing the confidence to bet on himself and then maybe really cash in on the always rising wide receiver market in 2026. All right, so that's a quick rundown. It'd been a while since I posted a video here on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments if you haven't already. Oh, by the way, also wanted to note, I saw a lot of comments because I was away last week, my daughter's graduation. Some very nice comments. Thank you all for the responses and the congratulatory messages for me and my family. So thanks so much. Leave a message, a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll try to post few more videos this week as we go on with OTAs coming up this week. And I'll be out there in Santa Clara watching the team practice on Thursday. So, well, that's it for now.